So let me start with the definition of reflection. Whenever light rays strike the boundary of two media, such as air or glass, a part of the light gets bounced back into the same medium. Okay, so you can have two types of reflection. You can have regular reflection or you can have diffuse reflection. Okay, in regular reflection, when what will you have? Uh, you'll have a condition like this. You have a smooth surface, incident ray, reflected ray, incident ray, reflected ray. Similarly, you can have diffused one. Okay, so in regular or specular reflection, what happens is when the reflection takes place from a perfect plane surface, then after reflection, all the rays remain parallel. So all these rays are parallel, these the reflected ones. Okay. In diffused, what happens is when the surface is rough, light is reflected from the surface from bits of its plane surface in irregular directions. So these directions are not parallel to each other. It depends on where the light strikes. If the light ray strikes here, then the reflected ray will be here. If it strikes here, reflected ray might be in this direction. Okay, these are some basic definitions. Let's also talk about some laws of reflection. First of all, uh, we'll talk about the plane mirror. And before doing that, some notations about mirrors in general. So what you should notice, the angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. Okay. Also, incident ray, reflected ray, and normal lie in same plane. Okay. These are the key laws that you have for reflection, and this is all you should remember. So I have shown you a case of plane mirror where there is a incident or incoming ray of light. It strikes the surface at some point. Okay. Then some of it gets reflected back. Okay. Now normal is the perpendicular to the surface at the point of contact. The angle that incident ray makes with the normal is known as your theta. Similarly, as I've said, angle I is equal to angle R. So the reflected angle is also theta. I'll call the incident ray as I and the reflected ray as R. This is a curved mirror. Okay. Here also at the point you will have one normal. It's angle I and angle R. Here also you will have a point where the light strikes. You will have a normal, an incident ray and a reflected ray, and these two angles are the same. Let me talk about plane mirror in specific. So for plane mirrors, you should note some of the important points, which are these. First one says that the distance of object from the mirror is equal to distance of image from the object. So if this is my mirror, this is the object, then this distance is equal to the distance of the image, object and image. Okay. First of all, distance of object from mirror is equal to distance from image from the mirror. Next is the line joining a point object and its image is normal to the reflecting surface. So this is my reflecting surface and this is my point. Okay. Then my image is somewhere here. Okay. Even if I have another condition, so and these are 90 degrees at 90 degrees. I can have another condition. Uh, for example, my point is here, but uh, my plane is like this. Okay. So when you're trying to find the normal, okay, it's not like what is the perpendicular distance here? This. So your image will be formed somewhere here. Okay. So every time if you want to try to if you're trying to find where the image will be formed, just look for the normal to the surface. The third one says the size of the image is the same as the size of the object. Okay. So if so there is a net magnification of 1. So it does not change. The size of image is equal to size of object. Also, for a real object, the image is virtual, and for a virtual object, the image is real. We'll talk about real and virtual as we go along. One more property is that of lateral inversion. Okay, that is, this means that in the image found by a plane mirror, left is turned into right and right is turned into left. Okay, I've expressed the laws as a vector form as well, where r cap, e cap, and n cap are different directions. These will be useful if you want to actually calculate velocities of different objects. With this in mind, let's go to the first case of reflection, which is given in front of you. So, to see the complete image in a plane mirror, the minimum length of plane mirror should be half the height of the person. Okay, what this means is, if you have a mirror of some height and you have a man of another height, then you need to find what is the length of the mirror that is required so that he can see his entire self in the mirror. Okay, uh, how do you do this? You make similar, you take a ray from the highest point or the head. Okay, you reflect it at the top of the mirror and that should enter your eye. Similarly, the rays coming from your legs should hit the bottom of the mirror and come back to your eye. Okay, and then you use the properties of similar triangles and you find that the height of this mirror should be h by 2, where h is equal to height of the man. Okay, these are often asked. Okay, and you should note that this result does not depend upon the position of the eye, and this result is also independent of the distance of the person in front of the mirror. Next, let's talk about total deviation produced. So for deviation for a single mirror is nothing but given by 180 minus incident plus reflected ray. Now what this means is, it's how much the incident ray has deflected from its original path. So if my incident ray, if the mirror wasn't there, then incident ray would have gone in this direction. Now because it has reflected, okay, it has changed its direction, so the angle by which it has changed its path is known as the deflection angle. It will be noted by delta. Okay, and its expression is 180 minus I plus r. Okay, and because I is equal to r, so you can write 180 minus 2 times angle of incidence. What about the total deviation produced by the combination of two plane mirrors which are inclined at an angle theta from each other? Okay, you have an incident ray. Okay, so it would have gone in this direction, but you change its path by reflecting, so there is a delta change, delta 1 involved. Now this ray will go and strike the other surface. Now this was going in this direction, but you change its direction again and it gets reflected. So what you'll find from this is your delta or your total deviation is equal to delta 1 plus delta 2. Now if you easily use the laws of reflection and some properties of triangles, you will see that 180 minus 2 alpha plus 180 minus 2 beta is equal to 360 minus 2 times alpha plus beta. Okay, and then from the triangle QAB in the figure, I'll see that theta plus 90 minus alpha plus 90 minus beta is equal to 180, or I'll find that theta is equal to alpha plus beta. Therefore I can write that delta is nothing but 360 minus 2 times theta. This is also a famous problem from this section, and there are certain results that you should note that I'll talk to you about in this section. If you If you place two plane mirrors inclined to each other at an angle of theta, then the number of image of a point object formed are determined as follows. So if this is your object and the question asks you how many images will be formed, then there are certain rules. The first one says that if 360 divided by theta is equal to m is equal to even, okay, then number of images, let's say number of images here, second second case is if 360 by theta is equal to m and it's odd, then n can have two cases. So I'll just write the two cases down. Then the first case says when object is not on bisector, when object is not on bisector, in that case what will you have? You will have n is equal to m. Second case, when object is on bisector, in that case you will have n is equal to m minus 1. Okay, you should all make a note of these things. The next case is if this turns out to be a fraction. So if 360 divided by theta is equal to fraction, it's not a integer, in that case what will you have? If the object is placed symmetrically, then number of images n is equal to nearest even integer, and object is placed symmetrically, then in that case I can easily write that number of images is equal to nearest even integer. Okay, you must remember all these rules. They're often directly asked in the paper. Let's look at the next thing. What happens if you keep the mirror fixed, an incident ray is rotated by some angle, and what happens if you also rotate the reflected ray? Okay, so in the first case you can easily see that I have kept the incident ray fixed. I1 is the incident ray coming in, and then R1 was the reflected ray for I1. Then if I change the angle of incidence to some I2, then this will be my R2. So what do you see here? If I change the angle or I reduce the angle by theta, then the reflected angle also reduces by theta. Okay, this is the first observation. The second observation is right here. What happens here? Instead of changing the angle of incidence, what you change is the angle of the mirror. Okay, so if you keep the incident ray fixed and the mirror is rotated by some angle, then the reflected ray will rotate by double the angle in the same sense. What does this mean? If I have rotated my mirror in this sense by angle theta, okay, then my reflected ray will be rotated in the same sense. For example, if this was clockwise, then the reflected ray is also uh, rotated by clockwise but by double the amount of angle. So this reflection is by 2 theta. Should also make a small note of this. Next we quickly look at the image and objects and look at their velocities. So let me just write a simple equation for you to remember. Okay. Now VOP is the component of velocity of object parallel to the mirror. So note that P will stand for parallel and N will stand for normal. Generally, you will be concerned with the normal component in questions, but I'll just tell you about what the components are. So VOP is component of velocity of object along the parallel to the mirror. O is equal to object and I is equal to image. With these in mind, these velocities or speed should be quite clear to you. VON is component of velocity of object along normal to mirror. VIP is component of velocity of image along parallel to mirror. And VIN is equal to component of velocity of image along normal to the mirror. Now, if mirror is moving, then VIP is equal to VOP and VIM, which is normal, is equal to minus VOM, which is normal. Okay. I can easily write this down as the next equation, which is 2 times Vmn, or I'll write this down for the next case that I discuss. So for the first case, this is all you should remember, that the normal component of velocity of the object is equal to the negative of the normal component of velocity of the image. So what this means is, if this is my mirror and this is my object, if the object is moving towards the mirror with some velocity, then the image will be moving towards the mirror with the same velocity. Okay, so the direction of this is, let's say, I cap. Direction of the image will be minus I cap. Similarly, you can have velocity, for example, velocity in this direction. Okay, then what happens is, you can have a component normal and have a component that is parallel. So the normal component of the image will be going in the same direction or the opposite direction with same magnitude, and the normal will be, sorry, the parallel will be in the same sense. Okay, so this should be clear, very clear from the topic on mirrors. The next case is when the mirror is moving. Okay, so I have now a mirror will be termed as M is mirror. So what does this say? Uh, Velocity VIN is again the velocity of image along normal. So I can write the velocity of image along the normal. Normal is this direction. So velocity of image along the normal is equal to 2 times velocity of mirror along the normal minus the velocity of object along the normal. Okay. As I told you, the normal component is what we generally focus on. So if the mirror is moving itself, okay, the mirror's velocity is Vm, and then I have this simple relation. Okay, note that this also affects the reflection that I talked about, that if I rotate it by theta, and reflected rays rotated by 2 theta. Okay, with these two formulas, I want you to remember these. Mark this as 1, and the case when the mirror itself is moving, I'll mark this as 2. So let's go and talk about real and virtual spaces. Okay, so mirrors or plane, or whether they are plane or spherical, they divide the space into two. The first is the real space, a side where the reflected rays exist, and second is the virtual space, which is on the other side where the reflected rays do not exist. Okay, so all your objects, all the real objects of the real world is on this side. Okay, and all the reflected rays will be existing in this domain. Okay, I've shown you the real space and virtual space for different kinds of mirrors. Here we have the plane mirror, we have the curved mirror, which is concave. This is concave, and this is convex. These are some terminology that you should know. things will become clear when we talk about what the object and images are. So an object is decided by incident rays only. So you need not have a real object in place. You need not have a ball or a block or, for example, you itself. Okay. So your object is not decided by these things. Your object is decided by where the incident rays are coming from. Okay. So the point object is that point. The point object is that point from which the incident rays are actually diverging. Okay. For a real object, if the object is real, then from the point object the rays will be diverging. Okay. And if the point object is virtual, then we say that they will be converging towards that point. So as you can easily see from this point object, there are two rays that are going out of it. For this point object, there are two rays coming in, and if this mirror was not there, then they would have met at this point. So for a virtual object, it seems as if the mirror was not there, then uh, rays that are coming in would have been diverging from this point. Okay, with this in mind, let's look at another real point object for the case of concave mirrors. Similarly, you have the images. Now images is decided only by the reflected or refracted rays. Okay. Here again the point image is that point at which the refracted or reflected rays reflected from the mirror actually converge, and for the virtual image they will appear to diverge. So actually converge and appear to diverge. Two mirrors are inclined at an angle theta as shown in the figure. Light ray is incident parallel to one of the mirrors. So light will start retracing its path after the third reflection if. So let's just first draw the mirror itself. This is your mirror. Always be ready to draw a rough diagram in the paper. Okay. This is your angle theta. Okay. Now you're trying to make the different rays that are coming. So I'll just quickly make them. Let's say this ray is coming in. I'll call this A. Let it hit at a point B. Okay. After first reflection, let's this with second reflection. You need not be precise with the different angles. It's fine. After the third reflection, it's starting to retrace its path, which I've drawn with the arrows on both the sides. I'll just mark these different points. M, C, let's say this is N. Let me call this P. Let me call this point as D. Okay, so I marked all the points. Now, what do you see here? If this is the angle theta, okay, then as you can see from the properties of plane mirrors, okay, CD will be perpendicular to MP. So the first thing that you see is CD is perpendicular to MP. That implies this angle is 90. Okay, if this angle is 90, this angle becomes 90 minus theta. Okay, so this angle is nothing but 90 minus theta. Okay, now this is AB is parallel to MN. That is already given to you. So AB, which is this, is parallel to MN. Okay, so angle PBA, which is given by this angle PBA, okay, is equal to the corresponding angle MPN, or sorry, PMN. It is equal to the angle PMN. So this angle is also equal to theta. Now that this is theta, I can move to the next one. I can write that angle ABC is equal to 180 minus 2 times theta. Okay, this angle. Why is that so? If this is theta and there is a reflection here, so this will be what? This will be 90 minus theta. Okay, because the entire thing, angle, this entire thing should be theta. So this is 90 minus theta. Similarly, angle I is equal to angle R. So this will also be 90 minus theta. Okay, 90 minus theta. And what will this angle be then? This angle will be again theta. Okay. Now I can easily write that angle ABC plus angle BCN is equal to 180 degrees. Okay. If I just substitute the values, 180 minus 2 theta plus 90 minus 2 theta, so 90 minus theta is equal to 180. That basically implies that 3 times theta is equal to 90, or theta is equal to 90 by 3 is equal to 30 degrees. Okay, so theta is equal to 30 degrees. Figure shows a plane mirror on which a light ray is incident. If the incident light ray is turned by 10 degrees and the mirror by 20 degrees, find the angle turned by the reflected ray. Okay, so this will take care of two things that we read about. So let me just draw the mirror that we had initially. Okay, so by dotted line, let's say this was my initial position of the mirror. Okay, and what was my initial position of the rays? This was my incident ray. Okay, initially. Now you know that if we rotate the mirror by some angle theta, if mirror rotates by an angle theta, then the reflected ray will rotate by an angle of 2 theta. So let first of all this was be the point. Okay, this was the normal, this was your angle of incidence. Okay, this was your angle of reflection. Is given as 30, so we'll just mark this here. This is 30, this is 30, this is your initial thing. Now if I rotate this mirror by, let's say, 20 degrees, rotate this by 20 degrees, let me just draw the new configuration of the mirror. Okay, and let's see how that goes. It will be somewhere close to somewhere like this. Okay, it's not to scale, but let's say this is 20 degrees. Now if the mirror rotates by some degrees, theta degrees, if mirror rotates by theta, then the reflected ray rotates by twice of theta in the same direction. This is what we read. Okay, so you should definitely make a note of this. In the same direction reflected ray will move. So what will happen is my reflected ray will move to some value and the change will be of 40 degrees. Okay, now we take into consideration what happens if I change the incident ray. Now I know that if I change the incident ray by some angle theta, like if this angle is 10 degrees, okay, then my reflected ray changes in the opposite direction. If my incident changes by theta in some direction, then my reflected will be changed in the opposite direction by the same angle. Okay, so if I did a clockwise change in my incidence, then what will happen is my reflected ray that I have now will move towards the left or anti-clockwise by the same angle. So I am left with this. So this blue line represents my final reflected ray. So what are the angles if I can directly see from here? So if this was 40, okay, then this angle is nothing but 40 minus 10, which is 30 degrees. Okay, so the angle this is turned by the reflection is 30 degrees, and if you want to find the angle of the reflected ray with respect to the normal, so that is 30 plus 30 is equal to 60 degrees. Okay, So this takes into consideration both the topics that we learned about. So let's look at another question. A plane mirror is moving with the velocity 4i plus 5j plus 8k cap. A point object in front of the mirror moves with a velocity 3i plus 4j plus 5k cap. Here k cap is along the normal to the plane mirror and facing towards the object. Okay. Then the velocity of the image is what? Now how do you approach this? First of all, let me just write whatever is given to me. So my Vm is nothing but 4i plus 5j plus 8k. Okay. And similarly my V object is equal to 3i plus 4j plus 5k. Okay. Now I can easily find out the velocity of object with respect to mirror is nothing but Vo minus Vm, which is nothing but minus I cap minus j cap minus 3k cap. Okay. Now we need to find the velocity of the image, right? So because it's a plane mirror, I can easily say that velocity of the image with respect to the mirror is given by what? Velocity of image with respect to mirror is nothing but minus I minus j plus 3k cap. Why is this so? Look at the question, it's written k cap is along the normal to the plane mirror, okay, and facing the object. So as you can recall from the formulas as well, only in the direction which is normal to the plane mirror, okay, in that direction my components will reverse. Okay, so only the minus 3k will reverse to plus 3k. Okay, and now I have the velocity of image with respect to the mirror. I need to find the velocity of image. So Vim is equal to Vi minus Vm. Okay, velocity of image minus velocity of mirror. You already know the velocity of mirror. I can write my Vi to be equal to Vim plus velocity of mirror, okay, which is nothing but 3i plus 4j plus 11k. 3i plus 4j plus 11k. Next, we'll take a look at reflection by spherical mirrors or curved mirrors. So a curved mirror is part of a hollow sphere. If reflection takes place from the inner surface, then the mirror is called concave, and if it takes place at the outer surface, then we call it as the convex mirror. So I've shown you both the mirrors here, the concave mirror and the convex mirror. In any kind of mirror that is curved, you will find some common things that I'll talk to you about. First of all, there's something known as the pole. So pole is any point on the reflecting surface of the mirror. For convenience, we generally take it to be the midpoint of the mirror. So this is the pole here, right here. Okay, it's the midpoint of the mirror. Similarly, the pole is marked here and here. Next is principal section. So principal section is any section of the mirror, such as M or M prime that I've made in concave here and here. In all the cases, M prime, which is passing through the pole. Next is something known as the center of curvature, which will be denoted by C in your book and in your calculations. So center of curvature is the center C of the sphere of which the mirror is a part. What does it mean? So if a mirror is given to me like this, okay, then if I just complete this sphere, okay, this will be a sphere of some radius, let's say R. Okay, so the center of curvature is the center of the sphere of which the mirror is a part. So my mirror can be this huge as well, and my mirror can be this small as well. But irrespective of what area of the mirror you choose, okay, it is always a part of a larger sphere. Okay, so if this was my original sphere, I can cut out small mirrors of different lengths. even this short I can cut, and I can cut even this long. For all of them, the radius of curvature will be the same. So the center I've defined, radius of curvature is the radius r of this sphere. Okay, or basically radius of the sphere of which the mirror is part. Next is the principal axis. It is the line CP joining the center and the pole. Next is the principal focus, which will be denoted by F. Okay, it's a point on the principal axis for which the object is at infinity. What that means is, if there is a ray coming from infinity and parallel to the principal axis, after reflection it will pass through the focus. We'll talk about this a little later. Next is the focal length, which is the distance PF between the pole and the focus. The next thing is aperture. You should note that questions based on apertures will be asked often when you talk about telescopes and brightness. So aperture means the effective diameter of the light reflecting area of the mirror. So what does that mean? It is the effective diameter of the light here the light reflecting area is mm prime. Here the light reflecting area is mm prime. So it is the effective diameter of the light reflecting mirror. So this will be extremely important for you to know. Next is the focal plane. Okay, so having discussed these things before talking about focal plane, let me just give you a brief idea about different things that are there. So we'll generally call this length as the aperture of your mirror. Whatever side is pol uh, not reflecting, we'll denote it by these lines. So when you see these lines, the opposite surface is polished and is basically reflecting. Okay, so here the inner surface of the sphere is reflecting, here the outer surface is reflecting. Okay, we'll talk about these things later. Next is the focal plane. I'll talk about the focal plane first. So the focal plane is the distance PF between the pole and the focus F along the principal axis that we already discussed about, which was focal length. Now what is the focal plane? It is the plane which is passing through the focus and perpendicular to the principal axis. Okay, so it's perpendicular to this axis. I have drawn it for concave as well. I have drawn it for convex as well. Now you can take a look at two types of rays that are there. One are known as paraxial rays, another are marginal rays. Okay, so let's me talk about them. Okay, so these are the examples of paraxial rays. What are paraxial rays? These are paraxial rays. These are rays which make small angle with normal at the point of incidence. Okay, so at the point of incidence, here the normal is in this direction, and this makes a very small angle with it. Similarly, if this is the normal, then it makes a very small angle. Here also it's making a very small angle with the normal. Okay, so theta is small. This is the definition of a paraxial ray. Okay. Next is what? Next is the marginal ray. Rays having a very large angle of incidence, so those will be called marginal. Okay, here theta is large. Next, let's quickly talk about the sign convention. So along the principal axis, distances are measured from the pole. Okay, so pole is taken as the origin. First point is pole is equal to origin to measure any distance. Next, what is the point? The distance in the direction of light are taken to be positive, while opposite are taken to be negative. Okay, so distance in direction of light is equal to positive. Okay, and similar vice versa, opposite to light will be negative. Okay, The next one is the distances above the principal axis are taken to be positive while below are negative. So distances above principal axis is equal to positive. You should also note that whenever and wherever possible, the ray of light is taken to travel from left to right. Okay, so just try these out. So I have shown you these three figures. So generally we have taken light to be in this direction. So if the light is coming in this direction, then anything on the right side will be, any distance calculated from the pole on the right side will have a positive value. Any distance from the pole calculated on the left side will have a negative value. For example, let me call this A, let me call this B. So when I calculate B and report the value of B, it will be plus some value, and whenever I report what is the value of A, it will be negative of some value. Okay, but this is positive value. You should always keep this in mind. One more thing is, above the axis they say that it's positive. So if this is my object, okay, so if I wanted to calculate its height, which we will be doing later, okay, so any distance above the pole will be taken as positive, and any distance below the pole will be taken as negative. Okay, this is the sign convention that you need to follow, and it varies. Same thing for, this is for concave, this is for convex. Here also you'll find similar conventions. We look at some of the questions to clarify this out. So first of all, now let me talk about rules for image formation, and we will be talking about paraxial rays only. Okay, and these rules are based on the law, which is angle I is equal to angle R. Okay, so the first one, let's look at the first one. What is happening? A ray which is parallel to the principal axis after reflection from the mirror passes or appears to pass through its focus. So this is by the definition of focus. So this is what you should remember. Whenever it's coming parallel, it will pass through the focus. Now the focus is on the left side for a concave mirror, or not the left side. I'll just say in more general terms, the focus is on the same side as the object. So if my object was somewhere here, okay, and these rays were, sorry, the object is this big, object rays are coming parallel to the axis, then after reflection they will pass through one point known as the focus. Okay, for the convex case, what we'll have is, we'll have a mirror like this. Okay, and then rays will come, they will get reflected, okay, and it will seem to diverge from a point on the axis. Okay, so this is the first thing that you should keep in mind. The second one is given in front of you. A ray which is passing through or directed towards the focus after reflection from the mirror becomes parallel to the principal axis. So if I have an object here, and if my ray, any ray is passing through the focus, then after reflection it will go parallel to it. Okay, so these two are basically like inverse conditions of each other, but you should remember both of them. They will be very useful if you want to calculate, or even calculate some values, or draw these diagrams for the paper. The next important thing that you should notice, I'll mark this as 3. A ray which is passing through or directed towards the center of curvature after reflection from the mirror retraces its path. Okay, so if it's passing through center, so then after reflection what will happen is, it will go back. Why is this so? Because here note that angle I is equal to 0, because if I take my line MC, this line, okay, what you observe is that this is nothing but the normal to the mirror at that point, because it's passing through the center. Normal in a sphere, if you take any point, the normal to this point will always pass through the center. Okay, with this in mind, you have for this that angle of incidence is equal to 0, because it is the angle between the incident ray and the normal. So if angle of I is equal to 0, that implies angle of reflection is also equal to 0. That is the reason why it's going along the same path. The fourth one that I want you to remember is, given to you here, incident and reflected rays at the pole are symmetrical about the principal axis. Okay, so angle I is equal, we already know angle I is equal to angle R, but they will be symmetrical for with respect to this axis. Why? Because at the principal axis, the normal will be along the principal axis. Okay, at this point pole P. Okay, if for example it was somewhere, if the point was here on the mirror, then the normal would be somewhere along this. So it is not symmetric with respect to the principal axis. But because the point P already lies on the axis, so the normal at point P will be this, and that is why there will be some symmetry. Okay. With this done, we can easily look at some relations for spherical mirrors. So I'll just change the color of my pen. I want you to mark several of these quantities from this paper. First of all, let's look at a concave mirror. You need at least you need to use any two of the rules here. I have given you 4. You need any two of the rules here to see where the image is formed. So for example, here we have taken an object at the point which is denoted by AB. Let it have a height h0. Okay. Now I have a ray going from here parallel to the principal axis. So after reflection, what will happen is it will go through the focus. Okay. The next case that I've taken is I've sent in a ray to the pole. So after the pole, it should reflect with the same angle, and it is symmetrical with respect to the principal axis. So it reflects here, and wherever these two meet, wherever the two reflected rays meet, we call that point as the image. Okay, so the A has an image A prime at a distance h1 below the principal axis. Okay, this is just one of the cases. What are the distances? First is the distance of the object, which is u. Next is the distance of the image, which is v. With this in mind, we arrive at one of the formulas which says that for spherical mirrors, focal length is equal to r divided by 2, which is the radius of curvature divided by 2. The next thing that you should focus on is a relation between focal length, the object distance, and the image distance. It is given by 1 by f is equal to 1 by u plus 1 by v. Okay, I want you to mark each of these equations. This as 1, this as 2, because in most of the problems you'll be utilizing these things. The next that I want you guys to see is the third one, which is magnification. Okay, so for magnification, I have this is known as the transverse. This is transverse, or you can even find the word lateral in the exam. So you are supposed to find the transverse or lateral magnification. It is given by the height of the image divided by the height of the object. Okay, it's a linear magnification, and it's given by hi, which is height of the image, by h0, height of the object. Okay, and using some similar triangles properties here, you will find that this is equal to negative of v by u. So I want you to mark these as well. All these are extremely important questions with respect to the examination. Okay, one more thing that you should know is what is the power. So power is given by 1 divided by the focal length in meters. It's a negative quantity here. Okay, so this should be noted down. All these formulas are essential. Okay, next is the velocities of the object and the image. As I discussed in the case of plane mirror, we had velocities at the normal and coming in the and perpendicular to the surface. Similarly, here as well, we'll have different velocities. We'll have superficial magnifications as well. Okay, but keeping that aside for now, I can easily say that Vix, for example, here I have taken just the x-axis. Okay, most of the times you'll be taking the same. So it's given by minus v square by u square. Okay, so velocity of image is equal to minus v square by u square. Okay, so it is a negative value. And what is the velocity of object? Velocity of object is equal to minus m square into velocity of sorry, I have to multiply one more, minus v square by u square into velocity of object. So I'll just use this object. Okay, so this you should definitely take into consideration, and because v square by u square can be written as m square, so I can write it as is equal to minus m square into vox. Okay, this is the velocity, and we'll look at some other questions to clarify this as well. So I'll mark this as the question number 5. Okay, with this in picture, sometimes they will ask you about superficial magnification as well, but for the basis of your examination right now, I don't think it's necessary. Some basic things that you should remember from here are, uh, if your magnitude of magnification is greater than 1, then you have an enlarged image, as can be easily seen from the formula as well. Enlarged image. If my mod m is my m is less than 1, then you have diminished image. Okay, also you should note that if value of m is less than 0, then you have an inverted image, and if the value of m is greater than 0, you have an erect image. So you will be sometimes asked about the nature of the image form, so you need to consider all these. So this is true for spherical mirrors in general. Okay, uh, I have shown you some of the diagrams here, which clearly tell you about how to form the images. So you can do this using a separate method as well. So from infinity, there are two parallel lines coming in. One is passing through the focus, this one, so it will reflect and go parallel. Second one is passing through the center, and so it will come back, and they will meet at some point hi. Okay, so here are different things that you should remember from this portion. First of all, uh, I'll mark this new section as uh, what happens for a concave mirror. So you can easily analyze concave mirrors here. Okay, step by step. So there are different cases, and I'll take you through all these cases. There are, I think, 5 or 6 cases that you need to remember. The first one is when the object is placed at infinity. So the object is at infinity. Okay, as you can see, you need to make these diagrams in your notebook as well. You'll see that the image is real, inverted, and diminished. Okay, and it happens at f. So what is the image? I'll try to write what the image actually is. So I'll write the characteristics here. So mod m is very less than 1. Okay, m is less than 0. What this tells you is it is real, it is inverted, okay, and it is diminished, and it is located at f. This is the case when the object is at infinity. Next is the case when the object is placed between infinity and c. Okay, what happens here is your mod m is less than 1. That implies it will be diminished again. M is less than 0. That means it is again real and inverted. Okay, so I have real, I have inverted, I have diminished, and I have it between C and F. Okay, similarly I can go for the third one. I'll quickly talk to you about all of these. For third one, if the object is placed at C itself, then what happens is the value of M is equal to strictly -1. I will not write all these things down. You should remember that if m is less than 0, then I will have real and inverted. If mod m is less than 1, then I'll have diminished. Okay, here m is equal to -1. That implies m is less than 0. Also mod m is equal to 1. So we will have real, inverted and equal image. Okay, so real, inverted and equal here. For the fourth case, what do we have? The object is placed between C and the focus F. Here also, what do you find? That the mod m is greater than 1 and m is less than 0. So m is less than 0, that implies it is real and inverted. Okay, and mod m is greater than 1, that implies it is enlarged. So it is enlarged. Okay, similarly you can write it for the next case, which is when the object is placed at f. When the object is placed at f, you find that your m is very less than -1. Okay, so you have real, inverted and very large image. And for the last one, last case, or maybe some other cases are there as well, but for our consideration this is the last one. So if the object is placed between f and p, or focus and pole, then what happens is my value of m is greater than +1, so it is definitely enlarged. But we see here that the image is virtual and erect. So this condition will only happen in the case of concave mirror and when the object is placed between focus and pole. What virtual and erect you will get also for convex mirrors, but the magnification, which is enlargement of the image with respect to the object, will happen for the case of concave mirrors. Similarly, we can overview what happens in a convex mirror. There are not many cases to overview. So the image is always virtual, erect, and whatever be the position of the object, m is always positive. Okay, so I can see the first case. This is given here. Okay, and I can see the second case as well. In both the cases, what I see is m is less than 1 or m is less than +1. What this says is I have a virtual, because m is positive, so I have a virtual, I have a erect, and I have a diminished image. Okay, so this is true for my case of convex mirrors. Okay, virtual, erect and diminished for convex, and for concave you will get a virtual erect only if it is between focus and pole. Let's try to attempt another question. A point object is kept between a plane mirror and a concave mirror facing each other. The distance between the mirrors is given to be 22.5 centimeter. The plane mirror is placed perpendicular to the principal axis of the concave mirror. Okay, so let's just quickly draw what is given to you. So you are given a plane mirror, you're given a concave mirror. This is, let's say this is your principal axis. Okay, I'll just mark what are the reflecting surfaces. Let's say now that my object, I'll make it in blue. My object is placed somewhere here. Okay, so let the distance of the object from the pole of the mirror be x, and as the distance between these two is given to be 22.5, so the distance between the mirror, flat mirror, plane mirror and the object is 22.5 minus x. Okay, these are the initial things that are given to you. Next, what is given? The radius of curvature of the concave mirror is given to you as 20. So the focal length of the concave mirror is nothing but 10 centimeter. Okay, 10 centimeter. Next, what should be the distance of the object from the concave mirror, or we have to find x, so that after two successive reflections the final image is formed on the object itself. Okay, consider first reflection from concave mirror. So let's see what all reflections will happen. First of all, if the object is placed here, one reflection will happen by the concave mirror. Okay, the second reflection will be taking place by the plane mirror. Okay, now as they say, that the second image is formed at the object itself. So that implies that due to the plane mirror, the image is formed at the object itself. So if this is the plane mirror, okay, if the image of the plane mirror is at 22.5 minus x from the plane mirror, then that implies for the plane mirror, the object was somewhere here. Okay, or let me just rephrase this thing. So for O, O will first send out rays to the concave mirror. Okay, and concave mirror will make an image, let's say I prime, at the total distance of 22.5 minus x. Okay, and then this I prime will act as the object or the virtual object for this plane mirror, and it will form an image at the object itself. Okay, this will be our final image. So this is I1, this is I after the second reflection. Okay, so what do we have from here? That with respect to the concave mirror, what is the distance of the first image, which is nothing but 22.5 minus x plus 22.5 minus x plus x. Okay, so this is the involved and slightly tricky question. That is why they gave you all these details. It tests all your concepts. Okay, so now what happens for the concave mirror? I can write the concave mirror's equation, which is 1 by v plus 1 by u is equal to 1 by f. Okay, given this, now that I know that my image is at a distance of this much, okay, the distance, let's say this is p, so the distance between p and I prime is your distance. So what we have here, it's 1 divided by minus of 45 minus x, negative sign because you're taking the distance to the left of the mirror, or if this is my image, this is my object, okay, for this mirror, then the rays are coming in this direction, so it's opposite to the light rays, that is why I am taking the negative, plus my object is also in the negative direction, so it's minus x, and also my focal length is also in the minus direction. Okay, with this I can easily simplify this and write this as x plus 45 minus x divided by 45 minus x into x is equal to 1 by 10, which is nothing but 450 is equal to 45x minus x square, or I can write that x square minus 45x plus 450 is equal to 0. If I fractionize this, I can easily write that this becomes x minus 15 into x minus 30 is equal to 0. That implies x can either be 15 or x can be 30. But it's given to you in the question that x should be less than 22.5 because 22.5 is the total distance, right? So only x is equal to 15 is valid. So that is our answer. So this question taught you or showed you what all concepts. First of all, about multiple reflections. So what happens in multiple reflections is you take the object and the mirror and then leave everything else in the surroundings. Or you only need to be concerned about the object and the mirror. Then you use the equation and you find the image point. Now the image can be anywhere, image can be here, image can be here, image can be anywhere. So wherever the image is, that will act as the object for the next reflection. So for the next reflection is by the plane mirror. So for this plane mirror, our I prime acted as the object, and we found that the image of I prime was given as I2 at the object. Let's do a quick question again. A concave mirror of focal length 10 centimeter and a convex mirror of focal length 15 centimeter are placed facing each other 40 centimeters apart. A point object is placed in between the mirrors on the common axis and 15 centimeters from the concave mirror. We're supposed to find the position of the image produced by the reflection first at concave, then at the convex. Let's just draw whatever is given to us in a rough diagram. You have a concave mirror, okay, and you have a convex mirror. Let me make this as the principal axis of both of them. Okay, now it's given that the concave mirror has a focal length of 10 centimeter. So this has a focal length of 10. Convex has a focal length of 15. Okay, and the distance between both is, let's say, 40. Now a point object is placed between the two mirrors on their common axis and 15 centimeters from the concave mirror. So this distance is also given to you. So it is 15 from concave, and it is how much from convex? It's the remaining 25 from the convex. You're supposed to find the position of the image produced. Now this is an application of the mirror formula, which was 1 by V plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. So first of all, we'll apply this. What is the basic idea? So this object will act as the object for the concave mirror. This concave mirror will produce an image, okay, and that image will act as the object for the second reflection, okay, which will be by the convex mirror. So let's see how that turns out. So 1 by V plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. Now let's just substitute the values to find 1 by E. So 1 by V is nothing but 1 by F minus 1 by U. Okay, if I substitute these with signs, so my focal length for the concave mirror is nothing but minus 1 by 10, because I'm taking the sign, because focal length is opposite to the side of where the light is moving. Also, what is my U? Minus, now my U is equal to 15, so it's minus 1 by 15. This turns out to be minus 1 by 10 plus 1 by 15, which is nothing but minus 15 plus 10 by 150, which can be written as minus 5 by 150, which is minus 1 by 30. Okay, so V turns out to be minus 30. Okay, so the image due to the concave mirror will be at a distance of 30 centimeter from it in the negative direction. So let's say the image is somewhere here. Okay, let me call this I prime. So this distance is what? This distance is 30, and the remaining distance from the convex is just 10 centimeter. Okay, now I will take this first image as the object for the convex mirror, and I will apply the same formula, 1 plus U plus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. Now what is to find the image? I have this is equal to 1 by F minus 1 by U. Okay, now how will you take the focal length here? Now you can see that the object is on this side and light rays are going in this direction. Okay, so as you can see, for a concave mirror, if I just complete this circle, so radius of curvature and everything, even the focal length, is on this side. Okay, it's on in the direction in which the light rays are going. With this in mind, my focal length will be positive, so my focal length can be written as 1 by 15. Now what about 1 by U? What is the value of U here? Now the U is measured from the pole it is on the right side with a distance 10 centimeter. So it is minus 1 by 10. Okay, and if I just calculate this, this is 1 by 15 plus 1 by 10, which is nothing but 10 plus 15 divided by 150, which is nothing but 25 by 150, or 5 by 30, or 1 by 6. That implies B turns out to be 6. Now what does 6 mean for the convex mirror? It means that it is in the same direction in which the light was going while approaching the mirror. So it is somewhere around here. Okay, so the image, I clear these things out. Okay, if I make the principal axis, if this is my mirror, this was my principal axis. So on the principal axis, I'll get the final image somewhere here at a distance 6 from this.